looking at live images from our southern border. Still no sign of the Biden administration's report on the arrest and deportations made by the Immigration and Customs Enforcement in fiscal year 2021. Now, as that drone flies over Panitas, Texas, part of ground zero for President Biden's border crisis, our own Bill Malugin is live in La Jolla with the latest. Bill, a little slow for you right now, but as the weather warms, could pick up.
Yeah, Griff, absolutely. And despite the fact that it's been a little bit of a slower week here in the RGV, that doesn't take away from the fact that a DHS source tells us just since October 1st out here in the RGV, there have been well over 140,000 migrant apprehensions. So we are definitely expecting that activity to pick up once again once the temperatures start cranking up. Take a look at this video. We'll show you some of the activity we've been seeing out here. This was in Mission yesterday. Basically, you know how it is. You can drive down any road out here and likely find Border Patrol arresting groups of migrants just off the side of the road. That's what we saw here. And the Omicron variant hitting Border Patrol manpower as well. A DHS source telling me just here in the RGV sector, Border Patrol currently has more than 200 employees quarantined with 188 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Meanwhile, take a look at these photos out of Border Patrol's El Centro sector in California. Not just busy here in the RGV or Texas, happens all over the border. What you're looking at are 26 illegal immigrants being arrested while they were hitching a ride on a train in the El Centro sector. Many of those were young children, and we've seen immigrants do this. They'll hop on those trains in an effort to get deeper into the country. Then take a look at these two mugshots right here. We talk about the criminal element showing up at the border. It's constant. These are two Mexican nationals arrested by Border Patrol in the Yuma, Arizona sector. They are both sex offenders. They've both been previously convicted of sex crimes against minors. Thankfully, agents caught them. The question, though, how many are not caught? The gotaways. How many end up getting through? And that's a point that former ICE Director Tom Homan has repeatedly hit throughout this border crisis. He says that President Biden is the first president to ever purposely unsecure the border upon taking office. Take a listen.
We have the first president in the history of this nation with Joe Biden, the first president that came into office and unsecured the border. He took the most secure border we ever had and purposely unsecured it. No president has ever done that, but they all want a secure border. Now we have a president and a secretary that came into office and unsecured the border and made our homeland less secure.
And Griff, just to hammer home Homan's point right there, what he's talking about, you and I know how many gotaways take place here in the RGV sector. DHS source telling us just since October 1st here in RGV, there have been well over 13,000 gotaways. On top of that, when we talk about sex offenders, just since October 1st as well, just here in the RGV, more than 60 sex offenders arrested here already. The question always, as is, how many end up slipping through the cracks that Border Patrol isn't able to catch? Agents can't be everywhere at once. We'll send it back to you.
They can't, and they continue to be overwhelmed. Bill Malugin, great report down there in La Jolla, and great setup because we're going to turn to our border panel, which includes Tom Homan, Fox News contributor and former acting ICE director under President Trump, as well as Arizona's Attorney General Mark Brnovich, who has been fighting the surging numbers, particularly there in Yuma. But Tom, let's begin with you. This year-end ICE deportation report, the department telling Fox it's, not being held up, it's coming. But what do you make of it?
Well, first of all, shout out to Bill Malugin. He's doing such a great job down there. We're going to get him an Emmy this year. That's what we're going to work on. But look, the ICE report, Griff, I was the third in command of ICE in the unit that oversaw the production of that report every year. Then I became the ICE director who actually approved that report. I can tell you without a doubt that they had those numbers mid-October, and we would usually release it within a month. However, these numbers are so bad, I promise you, the Department of Homeland Security and the White House are trying to figure out how they're going to spin these numbers. How are they going to support Biden's open border strategy when they see those numbers are devastating? I can tell you right now, compared to the last year under Trump administration, removals are going to be down almost 90%. The removals of criminal aliens are going to be down at least 65%, despite the fact that Joe Biden and the secretary said we're going to reprioritize ICE priorities to concentrate on more criminals. These numbers are going to show they're removing less criminals. So this report, they had the numbers for a while. They're just trying to figure out how we're going to spin it. And here's my guess. They're going to report it different than reported in the last decade because they don't want to be able to compare this report to previous reports because it's going to be embarrassing.
Mr. Attorney General, as you heard from Tom in Bill's report, he says that this administration is unsecuring the border purposefully. You have a crisis right now in Yuma, Arizona, particularly. You saw the 2 sex offenders just apprehended this week. What are you doing in Arizona to address it? And do you believe the administration is doing this on purpose?
Griff, I think that the best evidence of someone's intention is what they actually do. And I think unequivocally, as a prosecutor, you look what the Biden administration has done is they are systematically dismantling our border. At one point, I thought they wanted to get rid of ICE, but it's clear they just want to get rid of our whole southern border because they have allowed the cartels to seize operational control. And I sit here and I think to myself, like, think about this. The story just before this was about Novak Djokovic, the greatest tennis player in the world, can't get into Australia, and yet the Biden administration has allowed more than 2 million people to illegally enter our country and actually spread them throughout our entire country. And meanwhile, the cartels have seized control. We have a record amount of fentanyl, heroin flooding into our country, and all of us are paying for this, not only in our taxes, but we're also paying this with the safety of our communities and with our precious lives.
Tom, I want to bring you back to, Mr. Attorney General Brnovich there saying that this unprecedented number coming across in the RGV sector alone, the number source gave me this morning, more than 13,156 known gotaways. What does this mean for our, not just southern border, but for the nation in terms of security?
Well, look, I'm glad you brought that question up because this isn't just about illegal immigration. I don't care what your opinion is on illegal immigration. This is about public safety because Border Patrol's arrested over 12,000 criminals, convicted criminals. So how many of that 500,000, almost 500,000 gotaways based on camera traffic, based on sensor traffic and drone traffic that Border Patrol couldn't respond to? How many of 500,000 were criminals or gang members? And also, Border Patrol's already arrested 16 people on FBI screening database. How many of that 500,000 are known suspected terrorists? We don't know. But I'm afraid someday we're going to find out. So this just isn't an illegal immigration problem. It's a public health crisis because of COVID. It's a public safety crisis, and there's a national security crisis of huge proportions.
Well, Tom, they know how many have hit the TSDB, terror screening database. They won't tell us. They say they can't for national security reasons. I ask that question quite a lot. Tom Homan, Mr. Attorney General Mark Brnovich, thank you very much for your time. We've run out of time. We will continue to follow this very important issue. Thanks, sir. Jackie?